as my media supervisor, you are not supposed to give me any real gigs. So what am I doing here? You know what? No, I don't want to hear it. You're fired. And if you show up to any Florida golf course or even look me in the eyes again, you will not be breathing the next day. Do you have my good side? Is my good side in frame?
We're working on it, Mr. Trump.
Do you or do you not have my good side? Am I dealing with amateurs here?
We're sorry, Mr. Trump. We're working on it.
Is it good? Someone, take it, please. What are we doing? Gosh. I'd like some hustle, please. I have places to be.
Righty then.
Hello everyone, my name is Annalise. I'm here with Axios today talking to former President Mr. Trump.
That's actually just President Trump, if you will.
If it's alright, I'll be referring to you as former President throughout this interview.
I'll allow it.
Alright, thank you. Today we're here with former President Mr. Trump talking about the US relationship to Cuba and really taking into context the history of Cuba.
Of course, Angela, that is your name, right?
My name is actually Annalise, Mr. Trump.
As I was saying, Angela, the thing about China is...
Cuba, Mr. Trump. We're talking about Cuba.
Sorry, it must have escaped me. We were talking about communism and I instantly thought of China.
No, Mr. Trump, we're talking about Cuba. There are actually many who feel that calling China a communist country is a direct misinterpretation.
You see, if you actually look at this graph right here, we can see a recent spike in communism around this area right here, just shooting straight up. And this is global communism, by the way, if you can see it right there.
Mr. Trump, may I see this graph?
Yes, of course. Be careful with it, though. Be careful.
Of course, Mr. Trump. Mr. Trump, this is an unlabeled graph.
You see, Angela, I don't like you. You're not going to make it in the business world. You don't know how to make connections.
Mr. Trump, all I'm saying is that this graph could very well represent anything I want. It could be representing an uptick in syphilis and injured kangaroos for all I care. There's just no labels on this graph. I don't know how this can show your point.
Let me see this, Angela. You see, you're not going to make it in the business world. Actually, you should be fired right now. Please, can we get Angela fired? Anyone? Okay, we'll figure that out in post. In post? Okay. Angela, you will be fired. I can get a million jobs. You cannot hold one, okay? I am a very powerful person. I chose to be on this interview. I did. For the American people. I'm not done, Angela. God, another amateur trying to interview me, a professional, okay? Now, you don't know anyone in North Korea or China that would come to this interview as their leader, do you? No, because those countries don't know how to work it like I do. This is America, and America needs to be made great again.
I'm not American, Mr. Trump.
What? I thought we were in... My publicist told me we were in America. Where the hell are we?
Mr. Trump, can we please talk about Cuba?
Please.
Thank you, Mr. Trump. As you know, your administration undid a lot of what the Obama administration did to normalize relations with Cuba, increasing sanctions such as travel and remittances. How do you feel this is similar to embargoes placed on Cuba during the Cuban Revolution?
You know your stuff, Angela. I'll give you that. But to understand that question, we first must know the awful situation that was happening in Cuba when the Castros came to power.
That's interesting, Mr. Trump. You admit that the situation in Cuba was disastrous before the Castros arrived.
No. The disastrous situation was under the Castros. I mean, look at Cuba now. It's not making me any money. And to my knowledge, under Batista, Cuba was booming. They had a global relationship that was better than ever, and their economy was through the roof.
Mr. Trump, I don't think that economy was booming for everyone, and as I'm sure you're well aware, most of the economy was owned by the US.
Fake news!
May I continue, Mr. Trump?
No, that's simply not true. The US only became involved with Cuba to help them, okay? We were helping them get rid of the Spanish, and to me, that's very noble, very American.
Do you think that the US use of Guantanamo Bay is helpful for modern Cuba?
Guantanamo Bay is just to hold the most degenerate criminals out there, okay? Nothing else. No torture. No torture. No torture. None.
Mr. Trump, to get back on track, Batista consistently maintained power by depriving the Cuban people of their voice in government. And some would say that this control under Batista was a direct result of the US trying to maintain their economic dominance over the region. And the subsequent decrease in living standards for the Cuban people was devastating.
Did I tell you that Batista was a communist? I feel that's more reflective of the problems of communism more than anything.
Mr. Trump, and did I tell you that these communist principles were repealed by Batista in order to appeal to the US to maintain his power? When he introduced things in the beginning of his presidency, such as workers' rights or labor unions, he ended up taking these back in order to maintain his power with the US to prevent an intervention, as this upset large US corporations as the United Fruit Company. After he was outvoted in his first presidential term, he fled to the US, and he colluded with the US to help him gain power the second time.
I think I get what you're saying, Angela. Basically, Batista was the best president for Cuba.
I don't think that's what I'm saying.
Then what are you saying, Angela?
Well,
You're
I'm
not
saying
making any
that-
sense here.
Well, if you
Let's just move on, okay?
All right.
Let's move to the Auténticos, the brief set of presidencies just after Batista.
I'm aware.
You are?
Yes, I'm
Okay.
aware.
The Auténticos were a great group of guys. Honestly, the best for Cuba, if you ask me. They even had one president, Gra, you may know him. He was a formal businessman, very forward-looking, a little bit like someone you may know.
By prioritizing only US corporations, plantation owners, and wealthy businessmen.
Angela, let's get back to the topic, Batista. Batista's second coup, okay, was violent. Violence, by the way, something I do not condone, okay? Do not condone.
So, the capital insurrection...
Let's get back to what
Well,
I
no,
was
I
saying.
think that's an important point to
It's
cover.
okay. We're talking about Cuba. Cuba. Let's get back to Cuba.
Alright, we'll talk about Cuba.
Batista's second coup, a communist coup, was violent. And it wasn't supported by me or the US at the time. So why are we talking about it, Angela?
Well, it's possible because the Cold War was emerging at this time between the US and the USSR that the US wasn't capable of any real intervention at this time.
Angela, the Batista coup was at least less communist and a lot better for the people of Cuba than the first one.
That is not true, Mr. Trump.
No, it is. It is true. The Batista second reign after his coup was much better for the Cuban people, especially than the preceding government. It was commie, the Batista coup was commie, but at least it was less commie-ish than Castro.
The bottom line, Mr. Trump, is that Batista was failing to take care of the Cuban people, and Castro was the leader the Cuban people were looking for.
I don't think what Castro did was good for the Cuban people either. Okay, Castro was a very violent person, and many violent things happened under him. For example, when he rushed the Moncada barracks with all his followers, almost every single one of them was either killed or arrested, including himself. Then, when he was in court, very much like Hitler, he made a speech to the world about the greatness of communism and the alt-left, okay? Castro, then when released, even made more violence. He boarded a yacht, came and invaded Cuba, and then ran to the Sierra Maestra like a coward. And that who's who you think is the greatest for Cuba? Pathetic.
Mr. Trump, you're forgetting that Castro did educate himself as a lawyer, and he did try, knowing the law, to gain power through legal means, but it was Batista who decided to suspend elections. And even further than that, when Castro came back on the Granma on that yacht, while originally his numbers were low, he did eventually gain more and more support, especially in groups such as students. And Mr. Trump, Batista was overall more violent, not only in his warfare and suppression of Castro, but just in his general treatment of the Cuban people.
Castro was less violent? Are you kidding me? Castro was the one that supported a violent coup to take power.
And Batista returned fire with Operation Verano, but it was the failure of Operation Verano that helped cement Castro's rule, as well as Castro's reputation as a dashing revolutionary who helped continue the legacy of Jose Marti, who helped Cuba gain independence from Spain in the prior century.
I'm sorry, but what does this have to do with the U.S.?
Well, there was the Bay of Pigs
Oh,
after the...
no, okay. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm hearing something from over there. I think our interview is done here. I have
I'm
to
not
be
sure if
places. Thank you. I have to get onto a plane.
Oh,
I
alright.
appreciate it. Thank you to the American people. Thank you to everyone across the world. Make America great again. Vote for me in the new election. I was robbed.
I don't...
That
I
was
don't think
robbed.
that's
Thank
relevant.
you.
I don't-
Thank you again.
All right.
Bay of Pigs is not something that we need to talk about. Thank you.
All
Okay.
right.
Oh my God. Oh. I'll fix that.
Oh my god.
I'll buy that. I'll buy that.
Do you have it?
I'll get you a new one.
He almost broke my camera. I think we're okay. I think we're all right.
My God, we're in Britain? Why did nobody tell me we were in Britain?
Yes, you're in Britain, Mr. Trump.
I'm done with this interview. Bye. I'm out of here.
All right. Well, I have the camera set up for when you're ready.
I'm ready, thank you. Are we recording? All right. Thank you everyone for watching. I'm Annalise and you're watching Axios. Don't forget to tune in next week. Thank you all.